As we go live, I'll introduce Lorie. This is a really different podcast for me. Usually I talk to athletes or biologists, and today I'm talking to someone assisting humanity through a great awakening. And what does that even mean? So this is Lorie Ladd. You might know her from being a beautiful teacher on the internet these days about what we might all be feeling emotionally, physically, why we're feeling more than we used to, why we're having thoughts we've never had before of big changes in our life, and how we are evolving as a species. And as difficult as it can be, why it's an amazing time to be on the planet. So, my friend.
Hello.
Introduce yourself as how people might know you, or maybe not, if they've never heard of any of this.
Yeah, so really quickly, there's an echo on Instagram. So is there something I can do so there's not an echo?
Only on us. I'm
wondering what I can do. What's the echo from, I wonder?
Typically because that second pair of headphones.
Oh. Okay. Okay, let's just go.
Okay.
Just go. There's no echo, they're saying.
Oh, perfect.
Who knows?
All right. So talk to me about, for people that have never seen you or what you do, give us a picture.
Okay. So I currently, so this has been a process for about 4 years that I've been doing this, but I currently am teaching about how the human is evolving in consciousness, or how the human is moving through the evolution in human consciousness, which is moving from lower states of consciousness to higher states of consciousness, right? And what does that mean? How are we doing it? How do I know I'm evolving into these higher states? Why do I even want to evolve into higher states? What if I don't want to evolve into higher states, right? And a lot of what is occurring right now, ever since, the pandemic started, there was a massive sort of rattling on the earth and an energetic shake that allowed millions of humans to start to sort of wake up, right? They call it like the Great Awakening, humanity's awakening, right? And so what does that actually mean? There's an awakening, the Great Awakening. We are awakening. What's happening is that there's a process occurring on an energetic level where we are beginning to recognize who we actually are in this human body. So we're starting to actually recognize, wait a second, I might not be just this human walking around robotically doing this everyday life that I do. There may be more to who I am as a consciousness. There may be more to all of this. And as I start to open my eyes to this or become aware of this possibility, what happens? What's this process like? Do I go into some dark night of the soul? Do I start to get depressed? Do I start to lose friendships? Do I start to lose jobs? Do I start to no longer resonate, meaning no longer have an intuitive hit to do certain things that I've always been doing, right? All of a sudden, am I more irritable than I've ever been before? Do I feel more emotions than I've ever felt? Do I no longer want to hang out with people that I've been hanging out with? Like, what is going on, right? And since the kind of pandemic hit, it really started to allow humanity as a globe to slow down. Literally, like, you're now going to be in your houses, slow down, right? And so it was.
So you're saying across the globe, everything has slowed down. It's not just a few of us. It's
yeah, the whole globe. Now, there's countries and there's sections of the world that you know, we all are navigating this a little bit in our own unique ways, okay? But as a global consciousness, as one large global consciousness, yeah, we have all put the brakes on, so to speak. And like, yeah, we've been living our lives and doing our things, but the brakes have been kind of put on humanity in order to start to recognize that there's something greater occurring on the planet right now. There is something much greater happening here.
And so is that, wow, there really is an echo, and I'm uncertain how. Is that because, let me try this. Sorry, team. Thanks for hanging on. Maybe just keep talking because there's no echo on your side.
Oh, it's just an echo on your side? Yeah, so this process of slowing down, it's all divine, right? Everything's divine, all of it. Consciousness is energy, we're energy, emotions are energy, thoughts are energy, beliefs are energy, right? It's all energy. And there is a massive global planetary evolution in energy or consciousness. And when that starts to happen, we don't realize what's happening. We don't realize.
And what is that? Is that karmic? Is that in the stars? Like, what is that about? We've been hearing about since 2012, things are shifted. What is that from?
Well, 2012 was like, I think that date has been thrown around because it's a date where, just like 2020 will be thrown around for the rest of history, right? 2020 is going to be a really powerful day for humanity, or year for humanity. 2012 was a year where humanity had the opportunity to kind of level up in consciousness, or awaken. There was an opportunity to awaken. But here's the problem with 2012. Here's the problem with 1987. That was a really powerful year. 1992. There were very powerful years that sort of happened. But if you don't have a reason to awaken, okay, you're not necessarily going to awaken. It's not necessarily something that humanity is like, I want to awaken. I'd like to awaken, please. Like, that's not typical for the 8 billion humans on the planet, right? First of all, they don't even know what that means. They already think they're awake. So what do you mean awaken, right? They don't understand that there is something other than what they're experiencing. So this whole process, these dates that have been thrown out in the past, only if you are sort of in an awakened state already are you going to take advantage of those years that were giving us the opportunity to continue to awaken. 2020 was a whole different ballgame because humanity no longer had a choice, which is why it is one of the most magnificent years that we could possibly go through, albeit one of the most challenging, right? Really challenging for a lot of humans, but also one of the greatest gifts that we could ever have been given as a human collective, because humanity is, we like this, we like to be in control, and we don't like change. So we like the same things. We've got our routines. Everything's good. I don't need to do anything. I don't care about, like, you know, most of us don't necessarily, we're not going to try to go into the trenches of shadow if we don't have to, right? Trauma and things like that. Sure. Why am I going to do that, you know?
I think if you take the audio down on your side, it'll stop the...
Where's my audio? Oh, on my computer? You know what? It doesn't let me do that.
Both of mine have headphones in them, so there shouldn't...
Let me do something. I wonder... I think I have an idea.
That's it. That's the ticket.
I think we figured this.
There you go. There we go. Now that's fixed. It echoes my voice, but I think it's, there we go. Now it's fixed. Right, team? That sounds so good now. Yay. Okay, I don't hear an echo anymore.
Better. This we don't need anymore.
It's all good, I think.
How does
our
it sound
echo's
now,
down.
you guys? Good? Perfect.
Yay.
We
Yay.
did it. Okay, so where were we?
All that. Yeah, so what are some of the specifics? So you said before humanity didn't have a choice this time. What is that about?
Yeah, so when you start to awaken or move into higher states of consciousness or evolve, right, which is a natural process that's happening for the globe, for the planet, for humanity, what happens
and has
is
this been going on forever, or is it just now?
It's always been happening. It's always been happening. It's part of what, it's part of the experience of being on Earth, right? And it's part of the experience of being a human is there's an evolutionary process happening. It's very natural. It's a natural process. Evolution is natural. So evolution is just moving from one state of consciousness, one energetic frequency to another. States of consciousness are thoughts, beliefs, emotions. They're the ways in which we view our world. They're what frames our experience as a human. That's states of consciousness, right? And states of consciousness are energy. Everything's energy. And so when you evolve as a human, you are literally evolving out of old ways of being into new ways of being. And again, it's a very natural process. Now there's millions of humans that are like actively involved in like self-help stuff that they have been for years, right? That's a sort of evolutionary process.
Is that why we're here? Is that what we're here to do and be? Or I've also heard we're here to help the earth ascend to higher dimensions. Like, what is our purpose here as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it. So, I mean, so first of all, you're a consciousness, right? You're not a human. You're a human right now. You're playing the role of human. Like you're Lindsay playing the role of human. And so we all came in to play this role of a human, but we're not human. We're a consciousness or an energy. You can call it a soul, a spirit. I mean, most religions in some way, shape, or form speak about this in their own terminology, but most religions don't say the human is all there is, right? Most religions are like, oh no, there's something much larger. You are much larger than the human. And so that's the first piece, right? So you incarnated into the human body for a purpose, for a mission of some sort of reason. Millions upon millions came in to experience this shift, this evolution in consciousness in a physical form. What's it like to evolve in a body, right? A lot of us came in to assist the earth, right? So the earth is a consciousness. It's a breathing, living consciousness. It holds frequencies. Earth's frequency shifts, just like our human body shifts, right? So the earth is a much higher dimensional consciousness. And so she is also evolving. So people came in to assist, or, you know, consciousnesses came in to be human to assist the earth, right? And there's many different roles that you can play: an environmentalist, you know, an activist, an energetic grid worker. There's all kinds of things that you can do to assist her. And then people came in, like myself, to help humanity get through this crazy roller coaster ride that we're on. So there's so many different reasons that that you incarnate into the human body. But right now, if you're in the body, you knew what you were coming into. You knew that this was going to be the most miraculous, magical, you know, experience that consciousness can have. Even though when you're in it, it doesn't feel that way necessarily, right? It's very disorienting. It's confusing. we don't know really what's going on. We don't know what's coming. We don't really know how to do this because we've never had to do this before in such a...
I think a lot of people are saying these days, like, no, this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah, right. Like, what is this? And am I going crazy? Is there something wrong with me? I've never felt so much in my life. I've never felt depressed. I've never felt like I have no umph in my life. Where did the umph go? Where did the joy of life go? Right? So many humans are feeling this feeling of the joy is gone almost. There's a flatlining. There's a
you called it like an underlying,
like a low-grade depression. A low-grade depression. It's not like you're depressed where you don't necessarily, like, you get out of bed and you do what you need to do. But it's this really uncomfortable, unfamiliar, weird,
like, meh.
Yeah, just kind of like,
there's not a whole lot of emotion, either high or low. And so you're saying that's ascension and that's good. And what's that about?
Yeah, that's just one of the many, many sort of experiences that we get to have as we are ascending or evolving. So what happens is this evolution is physical. This ascension is physical. So it's in the body. It's inside your body. It's your body that is taking light, which comes from the sun, but it's a different type of light. It's not the sunlight that we see. It's a higher frequency light that moves into the body. Light is consciousness. So light moves into the body. It's the body that is taking light and assimilating it in the body. It's assimilating light, which is allowing you to move into higher states of consciousness. So the light is coming in, the light is illuminating, the light is bringing up shadow, the light is allowing you to feel more. The more energy you hold in the body, the more you're going to feel, the more you're going to recognize trauma. So why are you going to recognize more trauma? The reason you start recognizing trauma is that this is all about frequency of consciousness or frequency of energy. So if there are experiences that you've had that are in a lower frequency, so lower frequency experiences or consciousnesses, anger, rage, abuse, neglect, fear, greed. These are consciousnesses or ways of experiencing this world that are in a lower frequency. So when you experience them, you're going to feel like it's not going to feel the same as higher states of consciousness, which is peace, abundance, joy, love, freedom, that kind of thing. And if you've
had any of those in the past, and they're all stored in the body. I know that as an athlete. Yeah, I'm a transformational breathing coach. And the same thing is to resonate those lower frequencies to the conscious mind to allow them to free. But this low level, like, that's it's not necessarily a trauma coming up. It's not necessarily an old, something. What is it?
It's your body. So what happens is you're also going to feel a lot of exhaustion, right? And a lot of tiredness as you go through this. So what's happening is your body, I want you to visualize your body as almost like a glass, okay? And the light is the water, and the trauma or the stuff that we ignore, the shadow is let's say dirt, right? So let's just imagine that there's all this dirt in the glass. What starts to happen when you, as a human, we are programmed to be out of this body. So if you're in your body, you're going to feel everything that's inside the body. The light, you're going to feel how the light is moving. You're going to feel emotions. You're going to feel your thoughts and your beliefs. You're going to feel the shadow, the sadness, whatever happened in the past, et cetera, et cetera. But as a human, you're programmed to be out of the body. We're programmed to not be in the body. It's not safe. It doesn't feel good. It's really uncomfortable. Why do I want to be in the body? I'm just going to focus externally on all these other things, and I'm going to stay busy, and I'm just going to do. Sure, I'm going to feel things, but I'm going to really stay focused externally. When you start coming back into the body, which is the awakening process, then you start to feel a lot. And when you start feeling a lot, you realize that everything externally that was taking you out of your body was an illusion. Meaning all these things made me feel like I was a great person and I was super happy and I had all this love. But the second you come into your body and all these external things sort of start to get taken away, right? You're like, wait, what is here? And so what's happening is we're starting to come into the body and we're like, oh shit. All these external things that I thought made me happy, all these external things that I thought brought me peace and joy and freedom and all that, they don't. And then you're like, wait, so what does that mean? So there's this, you start having this like, because you're coming back home to you. There's these layers of awakening. So everything we need is inside of our bodies. All the love that we've craved externally, right here. All the joy we wanted to create from external things, right here.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing, though, to feel this stuff, because as we do, it makes room for more of the lightness, right? I loved hearing you say once that when these new surges of vibration, higher frequency come in, it brings up more of the yucky stuff, the sad, the old. And so you can start really celebrating feeling that, because that's all part of clearing it out.
Yeah. I mean, here's what you want to think about. So again, let's think of a glass of water, right? Like you want your water to be super clear, right? You want it to be like the best glass of water ever. So it's like, you're just like, the water's so good, but there's dirt in it, right? And the only way that you can clean the water and recognize that you're drinking really good water, right, is that you have to see the dirt. You've got to see the dirt. Otherwise, you're pretending to be drinking really great water and you're actually drinking dirt. Meaning, we have been living lives with trauma inside of our bodies, having trauma responses our whole life, perpetuating the same sort of traumas that occurred at a very young age. So we have these limiting beliefs around ourselves. And these limiting beliefs come from the trauma. They come from the dirt, right? And the only way to start to live a life that we are designed to live, which is full of love and peace and joy and abundance and alignment and the truest essence of who we are, really being who you are authentically, not being afraid of being it, allowing yourself to receive abundance and worthiness and real, actual, unconditional love. The way that you do that is you have to look at the limiting beliefs that you have held around with yourself based on traumas that were never your fault. So you have to see, acknowledge, and feel the little dirt particles. And there's nothing wrong with the dirt particles.
And let that be okay. I think that's the biggest thing, is we're so often like, there's clearly something wrong with me. I'm not feeling my best. I'm noticing this stuff about myself that I'm less than happy with. And there's so much of it. And oh, there's that other trauma that I'm still triggered by, like, and what you're saying is, by letting that be there and letting that be okay, it all lets it flow.
Right. Like, are you going to look at the glass of water with the dirt and be like, that's stinking dirt. I can't believe that dirt is in there. How did that dirt get in there? This glass of water is ruined. And are you going to get angry at the dirt? Right. Are we going to get angry at ourselves or are you going to say also, oh my God, there's no dirt in there. There's no dirt in my water. It's like, have you lost your mind? Yeah, there's dirt. It's called being a human, right? There's trauma. Like we have to start to allow ourselves to really embrace our trauma, because we are not our trauma. We're not the limiting beliefs. We're not the emotions. We're not the thoughts. We're not our behaviors. We're not any of that. But we are programmed to believe that this hamster wheel kind of way that we have lived our lives is normal. And it's not. That's what's so great about this awakening, is the more that you can courageously say, okay, let's go in, let's see what's going on. It is the greatest opportunity, because it clears the water, which meaning it allows you to get clear on who you are. It allows you to step deeper into your sovereignty, which is like, I'm a badass. Like, I deserve unconditional love for who I am. I deserve to speak my truth no matter what anyone says. I deserve to be seen. I deserve to be heard. I deserve to have abundance in my life. Like, these are things that we are innately birthed into, meaning every human is holding these inalienable rights as a human, but we are born into very traumatic consciousnesses: judgment, expectation, attachment, fear. Fear is the biggest consciousness next to love on the planet.
So can we talk about judgment and fear, and what is that the third dimension? Is that that's every day, I think with humans, we're judging our own feelings. And we're judging ourselves as unworthy for feeling anything that's less than perfect. Right. So, and then I won't even start with how we judge each other.
Right.
Speak to that.
Whew, judgment, right? Judgment is massive. Judgment it's very natural, right? So there's nothing wrong with it other than it's debilitating, and it keeps you in divide from yourself. It keeps you separate from yourself, and it keeps you separate from humanity.
Right? Why it was created in the first place.
It's not created. It's what happens when you step into a field of consciousness where there is duality. Okay, so what is duality? Duality is, or polarity. It's the same sort of thing, where if I have fear, I'm going to have the opportunity to feel the flip side of fear, which is love. If I have peace, I will also have the opportunity to feel the flip side of peace, which is war. That's what's so great about this dimensional field, is there's polarity. And the only way to have judgment is to experience polarity. So if you only had similar consciousnesses, right, which was peace and joy and abundance and love, there would be very little judgment, because there's nothing to judge it against.
I get that.
Right.
And is that where we're getting? And right now the judgment is so loud because we're aware of duality so much more than we were. And then how does ascension help us get to oneness, which would be love, right? Which would be all in alignment. It feels like that awareness is greater, and that duality is stronger. Is it more that it's not stronger, it's just we're more feeling it more?
Yeah. So imagine that your body is a frequency, and your body vibrates out. It brings in what it's vibrating at. So if your vibration is in a third dimensional frequency, which most of ours is still, right, then we're going to be experiencing duality and polarity in the third dimension. So duality and polarity is part of a third dimensional field. When you start moving into higher dimensional fields, moving into meaning your body starts to hold those frequencies, you start to be aware of what you're in, which is, oh, I am in a matrix or a dimensional field. I am in an experience. I'm observing myself in something that's creating a reality, which is, oh, there is duality. There is polarity. There is this and then this there. And you become like a scientist experimenting yourself in a dimensional field. What happens when you start becoming the observer? What happens when you start watching this process? Then you can choose and start changing. Now your body is naturally starting to evolve. Your body is naturally ascending. Your body is naturally moving into these higher states, which is going to pull you out of the lower states so you're going to be more acutely aware of the duality. You're going to be more acutely aware of the polarity. And at the exact same time, you're going to start to move into these higher dimensional realms. You're going to start to tap into them, which is where there's less judgment. You're going to have less attachment, less judgment, because you're going to be experiencing the higher states more often than the duality and polarity. but this is a process that takes, you know, a very kind of in terms of time, a very long time. So there's this back and forth. But the first sort of step is that you're aware that you've been experiencing yourself in a duality or a polarity type of planet, Earth. So you're like, oh my God, I judge because this feels better than this. Oh my God, I have an opportunity to choose many different types of ways that I want to be right now. And I'm going to judge. This one feels better than this one, right? I like this one more than that one.
I know that you have an awesome thing going right now, this 30 days of just sitting for 10 minutes, not meditating, not anything. Is that your strategy for becoming that watcher, that instead of having to be in everything, being the observer of, or are there other strategies for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the that exercise of basically like sitting and doing nothing. Like your eyes are open. If you keep your eyes open, it's even more challenging, right? And your eyes are open and you're just sitting with yourself. And the reason this is such a powerful exercise is because you are literally with you. So a lot of times with meditation, there's other things going on, right? Where you're like focused on breath, or you're focused on receiving messages, or there's things that kind of happen when you're meditating, right? Even though you're with yourself. It takes it to a whole other level when you're just sitting and staring, because you start to become really intimate with you, and you start to get annoyed or irritated. You may start to like think that you've gone, you know, your thoughts are going crazy and they're racing way more than they would when you're meditating, way more than when you're meditating. It's like, it's almost, you want to crawl out of your skin sometimes when you do it, because you're literally doing nothing. But what is such a, the reason it's such a magical tool is because it's the quickest way to start to hear you. And it's the quickest way to start to observe you. So why do you even want to observe yourself, right? The only way you can make change is to observe what you're in. The only way you can make change is to observe what you're feeling. The only way to make change is to observe what you're believing, right? And the only way to observe is to start to quiet everything and pay attention to you. Like to actually pay attention to like, wait, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Why am I choosing these things? Wait, why did I pick up the phone when that person called? Why am I responding to that text message, right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? That is how you become the observer, is if you can sit with yourself and go crazy for 10 minutes every day, right? Then what happens is naturally when you're going about your day and you're busy, you're in that same state. So you're so consciously aware that you are consciously participating in this shift or this evolution. You're not a victim to anything. You're choosing everything. You start to choose everything. And when you start doing this, not only do you step out of victimhood, like somebody's doing something to me, somebody made me feel this way, it's all these other people's faults for whatever experience I'm in. When you are in victimhood, you're disempowered. So you're not the creator. You're letting somebody else dictate your reality, which is crazy, but it's what we do. When you start observing, you start realizing that you're in charge of everything, that there is no victimhood. And then what happens is that you take self-responsibility for everything that's happening in your life. And then what happens is that you can now start to be in relationship. This is all steps and processes that take a while, right? But what happens then, when you step out of victimhood because you're choosing everything, you start realizing that no one's doing anything to you. Then you start realizing that when you get triggered, it has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with you, right? Then you're like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. But then what starts to happen is you start to settle into you. You start to allow others to be them. You're not taking things personally. You're able to be authentic. A lot of the reasons we're not authentic is because we are afraid of what others are going to think. We're afraid of how people are going to respond. But when you start stepping out of victimhood, it doesn't matter how anybody is responding. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility to take care of other people, right? And so so much can start to change just from beginning to be the observer. It's a domino effect. But those are all kind of like steps and layers to the process of evolving, ascending, awakening, right? And yeah.
So I want to hear more of your story. You share such incredible daily suggestions for staying in these higher states and having an awareness about what might be going on for you. That it's been so helpful since the pandemic. I think I can speak on behalf of so many of us. Thank you, Lorie. And thank you for stepping into this role, which is so not the norm. I know that you started channeling at 13 years old. Your mom was taking you to these ascension workshops and whatnot. Can you tell us your story and how you first knew that this is your path, this is who you're supposed to be, how you started connecting to your guides and having this communication with higher states of awareness that we're unable to see, and then how you finally committed to this life that you knew about at 13, but tried to really run away from until much later. Tell us that.
Yeah.
Story.
So I grew up, my mom was really spiritual. She started to awaken in like 1984. And so I was around 13 when I started to get curious, like the books she was reading. I started reading these books.
Such as?
Reading. There's books called like Bringers of the Dawn.
I have that one. I've carried it all over the world.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I read that one. We the Octurians is one that really changed my life. What are some other ones?
Octurian.
I can't remember. But anyways, a lot of Louise Hay books. Anywho, she started taking me to these workshops. These spiritual workshops. It was all adults. I was 14 years old, 13, 14, 15 years old, but I loved it because I knew that it was real. I knew that it was the only thing that was really real in the world. So I was acutely aware of the fact that we really were living in some sort of like, back then we didn't call it matrix, but it was like, I knew I was living in a simulation, so to speak. I was living in an experiment or an experience. That's a better word for it. I knew I was living in an experiment.
How did you know, and how do you know? Do you see glitches in the matrix?
How do I know? That's a really good question. I mean, I have no proof. I just know, right? I just know based on how I experience myself, based on how I experience my shifting in my reality, my shifting of my thoughts, my shifting in my beliefs, the way that I have experienced higher dimensional consciousnesses, right? That you can't see, that's energy. It's like, oh, there is way more going on than this. The information that I have read from many, many different people, the information that I've received from my own guidance, like it all has, it's like these building blocks with the same sort of foundation, which is you're in an experience right now. You're in an experiment. You're on a planet that is evolving, or right. So all these people from all over the world are sort of holding the same sort of understanding. That is a really good question, though, because I have no proof. How would I prove that? I have no idea. I have no way to, right? It's experience. You have to experience it.
It's also for, to encourage other people to listen to that stuff that we're just not, no one really talks about this in mainstream media. And so I want to start changing that, and should we be taking our kids to these sorts of things, because that's when they're not blocked with all of these belief systems that are incorrect. So.
I mean, what you really want to ask yourself as you start to kind of awaken out of a slumbered state of kind of zombiehood, right? Where meaning like you just believe what everyone tells you, you just follow the herd. Like if this person tells me something, then I'm just going to do it, and
or
And
people in
that's,
authority.
yeah. And that's just how the human has been kind of raised, right? And so when you start to awaken, you just start to kind of question things. You start to say, wait, does that make sense to me? Do I actually believe that? You start to wake up out of that slumbered state of zombiehood. You start to question. And I think when I was younger, I was doing that. I was like, oh my God, wait a second, right? And things resonated with me, meaning they made sense to me on an energetic level. It was like, oh my God, this makes sense to me. Sort of like when you meet somebody for the first time and you're like, I know you, and you've never met them before. That's the sort of
That's
knowingness.
Yeah.
That's the knowingness of like, I know there's something bigger here. It's this, you have no proof, but it's an absolute knowingness. That's how I have grown up my whole life, is like, I know there's something bigger happening. I knew there was this ascension process going on at a very young age, and that I would be a part of assisting humanity through it. I knew that.
Did you get that in a vision, in a meditation, in some sort of ceremony? Like,
it's like one of those things where you just kind of you just have the knowingness. It's like you're just like, oh yeah, that's what I'm like. You know how there's like Jim Carrey had this. He knew he was going to be a movie star. You know, he knew at like, I don't know what age it was, you know, but he was like, no, I always knew that this was what I was going to be doing. You know, well, how did you know? I just knew. It's the same sort of thing. I just knew. I always knew. So it was always this thing where I would go in and out of two different worlds. So the first world was like the very kind of mundane human world where I went to school, I went to college, I had relationships with men, you know, I drank a lot, I did all kinds of crazy stuff, right? I had that life. And then at the same time, I was like, oh my God, there's higher dimensional consciousnesses. There's all these like things that are happening behind the scenes. There's all this corruption. This is only one-dimensional field. Holy cow, we are ascending. There's all these things that are happening. There's these like, there's things that are happening on other planets and other star systems. And so I had all this awareness the entire time that I was also at a bar drinking until 5 a.m., waking up next to some strange man that I didn't even know his name, right? Like these are all, like I juggled all of that until I finally was like, okay, I think I'm going to finally commit to doing this work. And that wasn't until 2015. So, I mean, most of my life, I denied it. I was like, because I knew that it would be a 100% commitment. Like I would commit my whole life to it. And I wasn't ready.
Was there one moment when you're like, this?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2015, and I was in Mount Shasta, which is in Northern California. Really spiritual portal kind of place. Really, mountains. Yeah, it's such a great mountain. And it has really high frequency energy there. And I went.
Are the Tetons this similar in terms of spirituality or portals? So I live in the Tetons, and there's all kinds of stuff I would love to ask you about.
My body has goosebumps. Yeah, the Tetons they're more like, if I were to tap into the energy of the Tetons, it's got more of a masculine energy, right? Shasta has more of a feminine, soft energy, but there's also a lot of like activity. Portals, activations, openings in different dimensional fields that can happen. Mountains are used to access higher frequencies, portals, higher dimensional realms, because rock, big, huge rock, it can hold really high frequency. So if you think about electricity, right? It'll burn things. Right? It'll burn trees. It'll burn houses. Right? That's electricity. That's energy. It'll burn our bodies. If you get electrocuted, you'll burn your body. So
they're just giant crystals.
They're
so
giant
that makes
crystals.
Perfect sense. They even look like them.
They just hold like really high frequency energy, and so you can access. You can access a lot. You can feel a lot of energy around them. and you can vibrate your body into really high frequencies when you're around them.
So I want to get back to like your moment of how you committed, but I don't want to lose this thread. So yeah, how can people use mountains to shift energy, to manifest, to move, to ascend faster, right? I mean, is ascension the goal? Is there less suffering on the other end of ascension?
I mean, there is no goal because it's all...
There could be no goals.
There's no goal because, I mean, you're an athlete, so you're like, what's the goal?
Well, I just want out of the suffering.
The suffering, from my own experience. Okay, so a lot of times what suffering is an attachment to something. So when you're suffering, you want to ask yourself, what am I attached to right now? I.e., what do I wish I was experiencing? Then you're attaching to that. And so when you start to recognize that you're not going anywhere, and this isn't slowing down in any time, meaning like this is a roller coaster ride. There's going to be days where you're going to feel really great. And there's going to be days where you're going to feel really crappy. And then these days in between, because you're feeling a lot more, your body is moving into these higher states and then dropping down into the lower states. You're going to find yourself in this space of it's a struggle or it's a suffering at some certain times, right? And so when you start to suffer, we're not designed to suffer. We're not designed to suffer. So you want to start to say, okay, what is it that I want to be experiencing right now that I'm not?
That's it. What am I attaching to?
Yeah, what am I attaching to?
Yeah,
that I'm not feeling that I want to feel, right? Or that I want that I don't have right now. And as soon as you can tap into that, then you can ask yourself, do you want to let that go? What if you just settled into what you were experiencing? Because here's the interesting piece about ascension or evolving. It's typically that the easiest way through it is the opposite of what humans want to do. Meaning, when we're in pain, we want out of pain. So we think that we have to figure out how to get out of the pain in order to release the pain. But all that does is anchor the pain deeper, right? You're grabbing the pain, you're talking about the pain. It's like the same thing with the dirt. Like, oh my God, there's dirt in there. Why is there dirt in there? How do I get the dirt out of there? That's what we do. Instead, if you allow the dirt to just be, so you allow yourself to just be in the suffering dissolves. If you allow yourself to just feel what you're feeling, the pain, the sadness, the sorrow, it literally dissolves because that's how energy moves. Nothing's designed to be stagnant. But because we don't like what we feel, we don't like it, we're suffering, we're struggling, we're uncomfortable. We want to control it. When is this going to end? This isn't who I am. All these things that happen, we grab it and we try to figure it out. And when you grab it, you anchor it. So the opposite is, I'm going to not do anything with it. And if I don't do anything with it, am I safe? Yeah.
Amazing.
You're super safe because then it just moves right through you.
Whew. That was awesome. So I just wanted you to be able to finish what you were going to say about mountains and then tell the story of when you decided to really fully commit.
Yeah. So mountains, if you imagine a mountain, when you're around a mountain, any mountain, it can be any mountain. Mountains are designed to hold a lot of energy. Okay. So
you can probably also just energetically tap into a mountain. You don't have to go physically, right? Yeah. So that energy is accessible no matter where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can tap into anything remotely on an energetic level because your energy. And so we're in an energetic field. We're in the quantum field. So you can access any energy just by bringing your awareness or your intention. What would it feel like if I was standing in front of the Grand Tetons? What would it feel like if I was standing? And then you can use, your third eye to that inner sight to kind of experience that. But if you're at a mountain, visualize the mountain as a formation that's holding a huge amount of light or a huge amount of energy. It's holding a huge amount of energy and you can't see energy. And if you bring your body close to that mountain, so you're driving up the mountain or you're walking up to the mountain, you're walking on the mountain, you're skiing on the mountain, whatever you're doing, you're on an energetic you're on an energetic consciousness, right? And so the way you tap into it is, one, you've got to be in your body. Otherwise you won't feel it. So you got to kind of ground yourself into your body, meaning where are my feet? Where are my toes? What am I standing on? Where's my breath? Do I feel my belly rise and fall, or my chest rise and fall, right? That's getting into your body. And then you'll be able to start to tap into the energy of the mountain a little bit. You can ask yourself to feel into the energy of the mountain. Like, okay, I want to start to feel into the energy of this mountain and just see what kind of experience you have, right? You can use your breath to sort of start to increase the energy within your own body that connects to the energy of the mountain. There's so many things that you can do with mountains and your body. If you start to remember and kind of visualize, wait, this is an energetic pulsing consciousness, this mountain that's holding a lot of light, and I am an energetic consciousness, and you start experiencing it through an energetic lens instead of a physical lens, you're going to have a way different experience. If you do that with your whole life, you're going to have a way different experience, right? If you start experiencing your life through the energetic lens and not the physical lens, you'll have a very different experience. But that takes practice. It takes being in your body,
An
right?
energetic lens versus a physical lens. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So not emotional.
No, emotions, energy. So
okay.
Physical would be like, I'm looking out and I am walking around a grocery store right now, or I am getting my car tuned up right now. I am making dinner for my children. I'm cutting up the onions. You know, I'm walking into my grandparents' house. I'm now sitting down with my grandparents and talking. That's physical. Energetic is, what do I feel as an energetic being when I walk into the grocery store? What am I feeling as I walk into my grandparents' house? What am I feeling as I'm standing or sitting next to my grandchild or my grandparents right now as I'm having conversation, right? And that takes training, because we're usually up here in the head thinking, having conversation, but we can have conversation right now, you and I, right? We can have a conversation, but we can also drop into our bodies and sort of start to energetically connect into what else is happening, right? Like with you and I, there's like this beautiful flow happening. It feels really easy and effortless, right? Like we're not thinking too much. We're just moving with everything. That's an energetic experience. Physically, we're sitting here having a conversation. You know, you've got a hat on, you're in your house, I'm in my house. That's a physical experience. But what's happening actually on an energetic level? Oh, there's a really beautiful flow. Oh, it's super effortless, right? That's more of the energetic. It's easy. Sure. Yeah. So that's
and really using your body as that tuning fork. For all of it.
Yeah, because your body is energy.
Right. As an athlete, that's something I've had to tap into to stay alive. It's so I completely understand that. But go back to that moment when you're like, nope, I everything else is less important than helping humanity ascend and making that known. What was that? The moment
I said yes. I was on Mount Shasta. I just did a day-long kind of retreat on the mountain. And I knew when I was driving up to Mount Shasta that weekend, I knew that I was going to be committing 100% to my work. So my whole life, I knew that there would be a moment where I'd have to commit. I just didn't know when. So I knew when I was driving up to Shasta, like, okay, you're committing to your job. You're committing to your purpose, Lorie. This weekend is the moment, which meant that I would be quitting my corporate job, which, I mean, there's so many things that I didn't know what would happen, but I knew that I would be making massive changes. So I went and I did this retreat. And then I remember I went back to Mount Shasta like the following weekend or a couple weekends later by myself, because I was with some friends. And I did this really long hike, and I hiked up to the very top of this mountain across from Mount Shasta. And I just stood there. I'll never forget it, because it was pivotal, because I committed I stood on the mountain. I looked at Mount Shasta, because Mount Shasta has always had like a really powerful impact on my journey. And I just said out loud that I'm ready to commit 100% to my work. And I remember saying, I will do everything that is required of me, no matter what, to serve humanity. And I knew that when I said that, I was serious. Like, no, I will do anything that is required of me, because a lot of times what happens to us as humans is we're like, well, I'll do this, but I don't want to do this. I'll do this, but I don't want to do this. And I have always gone headfirst, 1000% in, no matter what emotions I felt or what the consequences may be, when I was guided to do whatever I was guided to do.
And do you remember what also would come up at the same time, or came up in terms of doubts or fears, or what if that you had?
Oh my God, there's 1,000. I could write a book on it. Like, people are going to think I'm crazy. I'm not going to have any money. I don't know how I'm going to do this. How am I going to survive? What if I fail? Right? What if it doesn't work? What if I find myself homeless? What if I lose all my friends, my closest friends and family? I mean, there were so many fears that arose for quite some time, a couple of years. I really had to, the way I navigated it was when I committed, which meant it didn't matter what came up. I committed. And so I was going to have to just move through whatever came up. So when my guides would say, or my higher self would say, okay, you're going to quit your job in July, right? So I was working at a private equity firm in San Francisco, making pretty good money as like an executive assistant, doing absolutely nothing, right? I mean, it was whatever it was. But when I knew that I was going to be quitting my job in July of 2016, I had a lot of fear, but I also knew that when I was guided to do something, there was no way that I was going to be dropped. So this is what's really important to understand. Fear, insecurity, doubt, lack, these are all illusions. They're not real. The only thing that's real is what you grab onto and make real. So when you have doubt, there is the flip side of doubt, always, which is I'm secure. Always, you're just choosing to grab doubt. So if you're about to go do something massive, right? And what's coming up is fear, insecurity, doubt, and lack. Beautiful. What's the flip side of those? So that's coming up because you're about to make a big drastic change, a change you've never made before, a change that has no outcome that you can grab. You can't control it. You're not exactly sure how it's going to pan out. So of course, these things, these consciousnesses are going to come up. But we live in polarity, so you have to flip it. And now you choose.
I think, that's so relevant. You've been saying in your postings about how so many of us are feeling this push, this nudge to make this big shift that feels really scary. So I know exactly what you're speaking to. What would you say to people that they didn't necessarily make the push, but they're, it's supposedly a huge percentage of our population right now is 1 or 2 paychecks from the street. Or people who have recently lost their job. So it's not so much you're considering taking this jump. It's this jump has found you and you're in that place. What do you say to that group?
So you want to honor the human emotions first of all, right? So the way we change or the way that we make choice is, first of all, we want to honor what we're feeling. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, right? If I quit my job, right? Or if I get fired, I don't really know how I'm going to support myself or my bills. That's a real freaking reality for a lot of people, right? And sometimes just surviving is all you can do. So it's like, listen, I don't care about, the consciousness. I don't care about any of that. I'm literally just trying to survive. And so if that's the place you're in, step one is to start observing the fact that this is what you're experiencing. If you simply just observe, wow, I am in this human experience and this is what I'm experiencing. And I'm going to stop at that. I'm just going to stop at the observation. That's fine. Just start observing yourself though. Because if you can start stepping out of this is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it, this is my situation. If you can at least step out of that by observing that that's how you're being, then you slowly have the ability to start to become a creator, right? So it's very tiny baby steps when you are in survival mode, because literally survival mode is like, it's really the hardest place to start to kind of arise out of, because you're literally trying to just survive. It's much easier if you're living a very comfortable life and then you start to make change, right? Like I was working at a private equity firm, so making a change wasn't as dramatic as somebody that may have barely been able to pay their bills. So the first thing you really want to look at is, or pay attention to, is you want to start to have the courage to observe yourself. That's it. And then have compassion. And a lot of times when you're in survival mode, you don't even want to have compassion. You're like, screw you. I might not even have money for gas. So I could care less about compassion, right? You're literally in that space. So again, can you start observing? Change happens from observation. And so just these tiny little moments throughout your day where you just begin to observe, oh, wow, look at what I'm saying about myself. Wait, what if I could flip the script? Just ask the question. You don't have to ever do anything. You never need to change, ever. You can stay in everything you're in, but just start questioning. Because we live in a field of consciousness where you have access to an infinite amount of experiences, okay? And it's polarity. We already talked about this. It's duality and polarity. So if there is lack, there is abundance. If there is greed, there is massive giving, right? If there is, this restriction, there is expansion. So it becomes this realization of what you're in, what you're comfortable in, what you're afraid of, and slowly starting to literally like peel yourself off the floor, right? Because you've been trying to survive for so long, and take baby steps.
And so
it's not these massive steps.
In order to bring about maybe that physical sense of the opposite of lack in abundance, would you, we hear so much about using the words or using visualization. What strategies I've heard you say today, let it be okay to feel everything that you're feeling, just let it be. And as you feel it, it neutralizes. And then in order to actually shift, bring in more income, bring in that relationship you wanted, what are your strategies to being active in creating that?
Oh man, there's a lot and it's layered. So okay. So first, being aware of what you're in so that you can start to change that, right? And then you start thinking about the flip side of the coin. So let's say you're in a job that you're unhappy with, or you don't have a job right now and you're wanting more abundance in your life. You're in a relationship you don't like and you want a more fulfilling relationship, but you're afraid to get out of it. Or let's just say you're in a job and you just want to make more money, or whatever it is that you're desiring. So the key to it is to not attach to it, which is really, really, that's a hard place to get to when you're just starting to become aware and observe kind of even what you're in, right? And starting to choose a new experience that you want to have. If you are attached to it, you are, first of all, you could very much find yourself suffering and struggling because you want it so bad. The other thing is that there's an aspect of you that we call the higher self. Okay. There's an aspect of you that is energetic, that guides us. This aspect of us is not ego. So the ego, when it creates or manifests things, it attaches to it. It's got a plan. It's going to move forward. It's going to do ... And if you're successful, you're really good at this, right? If you're an athlete, you're really good at this, right? Because you set your mind to something, you're going to make it happen, right? When you're trying to create things in your life, if you do that, you may manifest it or intend it or create it. Okay. But the magic of even more, or being wowed or receiving, exceeding your expectation, is to recognize that if you let it go, so you visualize like, okay, I want more money. I want a new job. I want a new relationship, right? You set it out. You're like, okay, this would be great. This would be like my next now moment, right? And then you dissolve it. You dissolve it. You like watch it erase from your place, from your space. So it's gone. Okay. And then what you're doing is you are allowing this aspect of you, the higher self, to bring it to you. So you're letting go. You're not trying to control how this is going to happen, because you actually don't know what is actually for your highest potential. So what we do is we lower the bar. We lower the bar, even in our manifestations. We lower the bar because the ego is trying to control it. Every single time that I have ever created in my life, I have set a somewhat visual sort of intention of like a certain number or an experience or whatever that is. And I am always, my higher self or my guides, whatever you want to call it, exceeds beyond what I thought was going to occur. I couldn't visualize it. I couldn't there's no way I would know that that was the number. And it's always beyond what I could have visualized or manifested myself.
And what if you don't know what you want? You know, how to find out either what you want or to be okay with not wanting.
Well, that would be ideal, right? I mean, I think not wanting anything and just being in presence is really a state where...
Is that the goal? Is that where we're to get to? Like, just...
I mean, I think as a human, it's really challenging to be in that space. But yeah, I mean, essentially, what I've been experiencing as of late is not having much of a want for anything. So I feel
like that's part of this underlying, like, just,
yeah,
like there isn't a want, there isn't a goal there, and it's like, well, what then?
So when you're in that space, what's actually being asked of you is to go in, which is uncomfortable, right? Like it's asking you to go in. So here's the thing about this process that we're going through is, when you start to go inward more, you're in silence more, you're in boredom, you're in like fidgeting mode, you're in trying to fix things, trying to control things, trying to change things, right? But if you keep going in, that is where magic unravels, meaning all of a sudden you may find yourself walking along the park or swimming in the ocean or doing something, and it's like you get this massive hit of like, boom, something comes in. And it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna start to write a book. It comes out of nowhere, right?
I got it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or, oh my God, I'm gonna go look at this website for something. It comes out of nowhere. But the only way for many of us to actually access that sort of magic booms that come in is to courageously sit in the uncomfortable. Otherwise, you are saying, I'm not going to sit in the uncomfortable where really the magic happens when I'm out swimming in the ocean or something, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to try not to be uncomfortable. I'm going to not trust that the reason I'm so flatlined right now is because there's so much magic that's about to unravel. And instead, I'm going to do what I typically do, which is keep busy, try to control, try to make it happen, try to figure it out. And again, that's ego. And the ego is never going to bring you. Yeah. Think about what used to happen. Yeah. You're like way in the past, thinking and wishing that things were like the way they used to be. Right. Or how to bring the past into the now. Right. Or the future. What's the future going to bring, and all these things. And from my own experience in this, and I only teach from my experience, but from my experience, I have never gone backward. But I also courageously say yes to everything that's in my moment. So like, if I'm really uncomfortable and really lonely and really bored, I will be in that. I won't change it. Right? If I am really irritable and really angry and whatever, I will be in that. I will not change it. I don't change anything ever. And when I allow that, every single thing that unfolds in my life is better than any other moment before that. Meaning there's more abundance, there's more peace, there's more joy, there's more alignment, there's more connection, it continues to grow, but at the exact same time, I'm also feeling everything that everybody else is. I'm not immune to it. I'm just learning how to say yes to it without trying to fix it. So
let it be.
Just let it be. And if you don't have any joy and you don't know what you want to do and you don't have direction, because I think there's hundreds of millions of humans that are in that space. I have no direction. I feel like I'm suspended in midair.
That was my next question is, how do we find our purpose? I think I asked you before we started, what are the big questions that you get? And I want to make sure that everyone, gets that from you. How do you find out what you're here for and what you're here to do, like you've found?
Yeah. I mean, some of us, a lot of us will have this like inner knowingness, right? Of like, I know there's something I'm here to do. I know there's something I'm here to do. And that can be like the devil and the angel, right? A good thing and a bad thing, because if you really know that there's something you're here to do, it's going to fester, right? It's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? So one of the things that's happening for us right now, one of the things that we really need to trust is, and this is really challenging, right? So it's not an easy thing to do, but the more that you can let go of trying to figure out what you're here to do, the easier you'll be able to navigate what you're here to do. And it's not easy, trust me. I mean, the whole purpose piece is really big because we want to be doing what feeds our soul. So that's the first piece. The second piece is everything. This is massive. This is really important. Okay. Everything that's happening for you right now, everything is bringing you closer to why you're here. Everything. If you believe that and trust that, then you will surrender to everything that's happening. It's a knowingness. It's an absolute knowingness of like, okay, if I absolutely believe that this hellhole that I'm in right now, that I'm living, right? Maybe you're getting divorced. Maybe your husband taking your children. Maybe God knows what may be happening in your life. But if you say to yourself, this is actually moving me, this is the fastest way in to finding and stepping into what I'm here to do or why I'm here or my deepest joy, then you'll surrender to it a little bit more. But also, you also have to juggle the human, which means I get to be angry. I get to be upset. I get to be depressed. I get to be sad. I'm going to allow myself all of that. And I'm going to have compassion for myself, right? But I live my life like this. Every single thing that I experience, I don't care if it's positive, negative, feels good, doesn't feel good. I don't care. Like a horrific experience or, a really great experience. I know in the deepest part of my beingness that if I devour that moment, I am continuing to allow myself to step into the next highest version of me. And I don't need to figure out why, because what a lot of people do is they're like, well, I'm bored. I have no passion. I have no joy. How could this possibly be for my highest good? Everything is. You're being guided by an aspect of you that understands exactly what you're doing on the planet. There's an aspect of you that knows exactly why you're doing what you're doing. And if you trust that, if you surrender and trust to that, you will have this deep, deep awe for what is occurring in your life, regardless of the duality and polarity around it. Because there is, every single person listening, every single person on the planet has an aspect of them that is doing its best to guide you through this. And the ego is saying, screw this, no way, can't do it, don't trust, gotta control, I don't deserve, right? And so we have to honor that piece as well. It's a juggle. I mean, it's a complex sort of process that we're going through, because
I think that's what your gift is, though, is that you, just like you just did, gave us all this beautiful faith that everything is happening for us and it's all for the best. And I think we all just love it when you get in your flow and then the world is okay again. So thank you.
Well, I live that way. So I don't speak from anything other than what I've experienced. That's why there's that passion that I have, because and my life, I don't have like, it's not like I have this like the most amazing, it's not like it's not like every single day I'm in this bliss, right?
But you seem to have this knowing, this faith that I think is easy to lose.
Of course, because you forget what you're doing. You forget how it works. You forget that, like, you actually understand everything that I'm saying. You just forget. And
exactly.
You get caught up in the very, very powerful lower consciousnesses. And these lower consciousnesses are lack, they're fear, they are unworthiness, unlovable, failure. These types of consciousnesses they will grab you, and it's like, this is absolute truth, and it's like trying to ungrip yourself from a Velcro, right? It's like you are glued to it. You're glued to that fear. You're glued to those beliefs. You're glued to the lack. You're glued to it. And
is that part of the third dimension, or is
Yeah, I mean, it's the third. It's also experienced in the fourth dimensional frequencies. When you start stepping into, or when your body starts to access and anchor what a lot of people call the fifth dimensional consciousnesses, they're just higher frequencies. It's a higher frequency, and these different frequencies or hertz, right, will be experienced in a specific dimensional field. So a dimensional field holds like a spectrum of hertz or a spectrum of frequency. So if an energy spins.
So can you still have shame and lack in those higher frequencies, or are those not possible in those frequencies?
It's not, they don't exist in those frequencies. But so for instance, if your body, let's just throw out a random hertz number, or just a number, like, let's say your body is holding the majority of your body's frequencies in a 3.7 frequency. So you're in the third dimensional frequency. So you're going to have access to all the different consciousnesses, right? And the beautiful thing about the third dimension is that you have access to those duality and polarities, love and hate, et cetera, right? When your body moves into, let's say it starts to hold, let's say it's holding 5.6, like a really kind of fun frequency that your body is holding. Then you are, here's the really important piece. You are accessing consciousnesses that are in that 5.7 range or below, right? But you are experiencing your reality in that higher consciousness. So you're vibrating at that higher consciousness. You're pulling consciousnesses there, right? So greed doesn't hold a 5.7 consciousness, right? So the natural state of being isn't going to be in greed. But here's the piece, or fear. Fear is a consciousness. Let's label it like 3.8 or something. I don't know, 3.7, right? So when you're holding a 5.7 frequency, the natural state of that frequency is not going to feel fear. But here's what's really important to understand from the quantum perspective, quantum field. The quantum field means that you have access to everything. If you are vibrating in a 5.7 frequency, okay, your natural state is going to be in these more blissful sort of states. But you're in the quantum field, which means that you have access to the lower consciousnesses. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? So you can choose to tap into fear. You can choose to say, wait, I want to feel lack for a second. Hold on a second, because it's there. Mm-hmm. Now your body isn't going to resonate with it. It's not going to resonate with fear. So when you start evolving, you no longer resonate with fear consciousness. You don't believe it. You're like, I'm not playing in fear anymore. Fear doesn't even make sense to me. So you just let it move through you. Okay. So when your body is at a 5.7, its natural state is not going to be fear. It's not going to resonate. The resonance is your energy. It's your energetic field. So your resonance is going to be like, dude, I don't even, what is fear? Greed. Greed doesn't make sense to me. I'm in abundance, right? It's a natural state, but you can always tap into the lower states. So people think that if they are evolving into these higher states, they're never going to access fear again.
Right. I feel like, oh, once I reach the 5th dimension, I'll never feel those again. So thanks for bringing it back to reality.
It's a choice though,
again.
But this is what's so important. It's a choice. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so important to become the observer.
And so is the ticket to, there's a lot of fluff right now around, well, just think all positive thoughts and you'll elevate to these higher frequencies. Am I hearing from you saying that the way to naturally be in those higher frequencies where we all want to get to is simply by allowing everything to be and to feel everything? Or what is your practice?
Sense?
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean, that
so the practice is allowing it all to be.
Yeah, because so when we try to positive think our way out of things, we're denying the dirt. There's no 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 dirt. It's like, are you joking? There's dirt. No. There's no dirt. I'm going to mantra my way out into this water not having dirt, right? You can do that, but you're denying. So for a brief moment, you will feel better because you're convincing yourself that there's no dirt. But as soon as you stop convincing yourself and trying to pretend that there's no dirt, you're going to recognize, oh, wow, there's dirt. And then you're like, okay, so big deal for everything. So what next? Right? So what next? That's how I kind of experience the human experience. You have to allow it all. Because when you positive think, you are literally denying what's in your now. And remember, everything that's in your experience right now is an opportunity. So stop denying the opportunity. Take it.
Love it. Anything you want to share about the collective and, what we're going through in terms of these paradigms that are falling, or is that a whole nother issue for another time?
Well, so
or what to expect? Like what should we be expecting?
Who knows? So we've been talking a lot about the individual shift in consciousness, right? We've been talking about observations. We've been talking about kind of like allowing yourself to feel everything, choosing, creating, things like that. So if you take that perspective of the individual and move it out into the collective human. So the collective consciousness, the human collective consciousness is every single human body that's vibrating. is creating one large energetic frequency. Just like your body is holding a frequency, the collective of the human field, the human collective is holding a frequency. And that huge, large, global 8 billion collective frequency, right? 8 billion humans creating this one collective frequency is shifting in consciousness as well, which means that the lower states of consciousness, just like in us, the shadow, the lower states of consciousness are going to rise up. So the paradigms and the programs that we have been in for a very long time are going to start to rattle and shift and sort of pop up and say, oh, wow, hold on a second. Wait a second, what? Like you're going to start questioning things, perhaps. Things are going to start to come out of the woodworks, it's like you're going to start to notice things that you never noticed before about certain things that, you know, experiences you've been having, paradigms that you've been in, programs that you've been in, religious, environmental, all kinds of stuff, right? Government, stuff like that. It's the collective shifting as well. And so what's happening right now is that we're like double whammied. We're like doing our own individual shifting, and then we're watching an entire human collective shift. And it's a massive undertaking because we are trying to juggle both, and we're doing it side by side, which is why you see all of this divide happening right now, right? These humans are getting upset with other humans. Humans are triggering other humans because there is a collective purging and an individual purging. And when there is purging being done or shadow coming up, there's a huge amount of trauma that's being healed. And when trauma is healed, there's triggers. Triggering is one of the easiest ways for us to understand that we have trauma. And so if you look at what's happening in the collective right now, all around your city, your country, you know, the globe, is humans are triggering other humans over and over and over again. And we're yelling at each other, we're berating each other, we're creating more divide, we're canceling out everybody because it is allowing, those are triggers. That's a triggered response. Cancel culture, that's a triggered response. Divide, that's a triggered response. Finger pointing, bullying, belittling, that's a I'm right, you're wrong, that's triggered responses, and triggers are trauma. And again, the only way that you heal the only way you heal trauma, the only way you move into higher states of consciousness is healing trauma. The only way you heal trauma is to you recognize that you have it. And the only way to recognize it for a lot of us is that we feel triggers.
But on a, you know, recognizing this in our governments, in our systems, what can we do about it?
Well, it depends on kind of what resonates with you. So there's a lot of people that are really wanting to speak out about it and educate, right? So they're getting on their platforms and they're sharing different information that may not be on this mainstream media, right? So they're sharing alternate information. People are going out on the streets, right? They're going to rallies. People are individually choosing completely different ways of being, maybe taking their kids out of school, maybe changing their jobs because of certain experiences that they don't want to have. Some people are just kind of allowing it to unravel, but choosing to kind of hold a little bit more love and compassion and empathy for humanity, which is a massive undertaking, you know. Some people are turning their backs and it's like, I can't handle this right now. I'm not gonna do anything. You know, and a majority of the humans don't even realize what's actually going on. So there's a lot of different ways that you can navigate this. You want to feel into your resonance of what feels most right to you. But more importantly is you want to have compassion and empathy. And you don't want to be attached to trying to change anyone. Because if you're attached to changing somebody, you will be in suffering. Our job isn't to change people, right? Our job is to be.
Or change the system, or change the paradigm, or the structure of everything. Wow.
Yeah, because if you try to change it, you're going to be trying to control it. So if you think about like Martin Luther King, right?
There's attachment there somehow.
Yeah. Martin Luther King didn't try to change anything. Martin Luther King was the change, right? He spoke the change. He walked the change. He was the change. He educated. He didn't try to go in and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Change this, change this, change this. He didn't do that. He was the change himself. And that's really, really important, that we learn how to change from that perspective, right? You think about all the great leaders, all the leaders that really made massive change in the world. They weren't finger pointing. They weren't bullying. They weren't name calling. They weren't even saying, you're wrong, I'm right. Think about it. Think of the greatest game-changing people in our world. They never said, you're wrong, I'm right. Right? They literally vibrated and expressed themselves as the change, and they spoke, and they were passionate about it, you know, and they stood up for what they believed in, and they yelled from the rooftops if they needed to, but they did it from, they didn't do it from divide. Beautiful. Yeah.
Really beautiful. Anything else you feel like this audience needs to hear?
Just, I think if you can be the observer and have more compassion for yourself and for humans right now, holding the awareness or beginning to hold this awareness of, wow, this is a massive global shift in energy or a massive global shift in consciousness. And this is a massive individual shift in my own consciousness. And I've never done this before. Humanity's never done this before. So we're all doing this together blindly, right? And there's no right or wrong way to do it. But it's the more that you can observe yourself experiencing this and patting yourself on the back every moment along the way, like, you're a badass. Like, you're depressed today, good for you, keep going, right? You have a low-grade depression, you're a badass because you're in the human body and you're navigating this. You're showing up every day, right? The more we can do that for ourselves and others, the easier we'll be able to navigate this, you know? Beautiful. And it's a marathon, right? We just started. We're on like 0.6 and we've got like 25.4 miles left. It's a long journey. So, you know, we want to be gentle with ourselves.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you all for joining. And yeah, thanks for showing up.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun. It was a lot of fun.
Likewise.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Take it easy.